Right, this is my second interview. Hello, Lara.
Hello.
This is Lara Johnson. You're Johnson, aren't you?
Yes.
Right, well, I'll explain to you a little bit about my subject before I start asking you questions. The subject I'm doing is sort of self-identity, and as you sort of go through adolescence, and how that affects who yourself, well, your taste in music, and how it affects your self-identity as you go through adolescence, like, and questioning what affects what. Is the music part of the culture, or does the music create the culture? And also, asking you about your experiences, what you think on that, and asking you about your experiences to do with that. So firstly, what kind of music do you listen to?
Everything.
Yeah.
I literally listen to everything. I listen to indie stuff, I listen to reggae, I listen to metal, I listen to opera and classical stuff. I have a very wide taste of music. And even listen to weird, like, Indian stuff sometimes in the morning when I'm getting ready to college, which is nice, especially when it's sunny. But it's good. I do listen to everything.
What kind of music do your friends listen to?
My friends, it depends who I'm hanging out with, because if I'm hanging out with, like, Jack, who's got dreadlocks, he'll be listening to, like, Rasta, sort of, like, reggae kind of mixed with dubstep.
If I could just stop you for 2 seconds, I'll let you know but it's very interesting when he said, your friend, what's he called? Jack, who's got dreadlocks, who listens to reggae.
There's a different, like, it's very stereotypical because, like, if people dress a certain way, then they are going to be listening to a certain type of music. I personally didn't think, like, when I was younger, I didn't think it mattered, like, I did, like, because when I was at school, I was listening to everything still, and I was still, when I was doing music at school, I was still singing opera and stuff, but a lot of people kind of ridiculed me for it, because I was the only person that sang classical and or opera in the whole of my school.
So, did you find, this is quite interesting, I wanted to know about this earlier, did you find that in secondary school, this sort of badge of the music you listen to had a much sort of bigger impact?
Yeah,
and it's
definitely.
kind of, as you've got on older, it's kind of, everyone died down a bit, and
definitely.
Everyone kind of
when
listens
you're at
to more stuff.
school, it's like if you listen to, like, metal or, like, anything that's sort of, anything that, it sounds ridiculous, but anything that lyrics had a meaning, you were considered to be like an emo kid, because the lyrics meant something to you. And like, if you were listening to, like, dubstep, ravey music, you were considered to be, like, one of the popular lot, because they always went out raving and they were listening to that kind of music. But as, like, the transition between leaving school and coming to college, I think that's when everyone finds out who they are, because obviously you're hanging around for, like, 6 months not doing anything, unless you're lucky enough to have a job. You just hang out with loads of people, and you get to know other people, but you get to know yourself. And I think it's with the music as well, a lot of people still stereotype people now, because, like, I go to the George a lot, and everyone thinks that because I go to the George, all I listen to is, like, heavy metal and crazy stuff like that.
I thought that was what
like,
you were going to say.
You know what I mean? But it's not, like, the George, they play dubstep in there as well. It's an alternative bar. It shouldn't be called alternative, because people still listen to it. It's just because a minority listens to it, it suddenly makes it different. And it still happens, but it doesn't affect you as much as, like, if I listen to, like, Slayer or something, everyone's not going to be all, like, nowadays people aren't going to be like, oh, you're going to headbutt me because you're an angry person because you listen to angry music, you know what I mean? Whereas if you're in school and you listen to Slayer, people are like, what are you doing? Like, what is that noise? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, this is interesting.
So, yeah.
So, at your school, there were a lot of people that listened to chart music, and they all hung around together, and you kind of hung around.
And it was like, we'd listen, like, me and my lot, we'd still listen to, like, chart music. It's like, but we'd listen to, not the necessarily, like, underground scene, but we'd kind of be more open to different types of music, whereas people, like, certain people at the school, because the music wasn't in the charts, they considered it to be, like, uncool, and they shouldn't really be listening to it because it wasn't in the charts, it wasn't popular, so what's the point of listening to it, you know? So, but I think as you get older, like now, because we're at college and stuff, a lot of people that are still at college have now got the opposite idea. Like, people are starting to listen to stuff that isn't as well known, because now that's the cool thing to do, to be individual, even though no one's really individual, because at the end of the day, everyone's still listening to music. It's still noise, it's still stuff that you listen to, you know, so, yeah.
Well, it's quite interesting, really, the way that as you sort of transition from secondary school to college, it seems to be that everyone wants to go from being part of the crowd to wanting to be
that in person.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, this is true. And also, what was I thinking a second ago? I was just thinking something. Yeah, do you find that, do you think that people listen to, I mean, even you yourself or other people listen to music, you kind of said it earlier, but about, they'll hear something and think it sounds okay, but they won't listen to it because they don't think it subscribes to
what they should be.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely. I think that there have been many occasions where people have started been like, listen to this, and people around them have been like, I can't listen to that, it's not what I am. Because nowadays you've got all the different groups of people, you've got your indie kids, your metalheads and stuff, and I know quite a lot of indie kids that will be like, that's hardcore, I can't listen to that because I am perceived in this way, it can't damage my you know what I mean, my status among my friends, you know what I mean, and I just think it's ridiculous. If you like a certain type of music, then just listen to it. It's not gonna damage you, it's in anything gonna not make you a better person, but if you've got that much knowledge about many different styles of music, you're gonna be more knowledgeable about it and understand it better. So, but yeah,
definitely, that's very interesting. Would you say your friends' taste in music has branched out as they've gone to college as well?
Yeah, definitely.
So everyone's becoming a lot more open.
I know a lot of people, when I was at school, it was very sort of bring me the horizon kind of, because the people that I hang out with, it was always bring me the horizon and really trashy pop music. Whereas now, me and my friend Dimitri, last year in the summer, we'd drive up to have a picnic somewhere and we'd blare out Nicki Minaj in the car and then have Foo Fighters on. Do you know what I mean? Whereas before, when we were at school, it was just very samey, but I was still kind of listening to stuff, and people would be like, what are you listening to? And I'd be like, I don't know, Bob Marley or something. They'd be like, oh cool, and then you know, it kind of works that way. But I think because we're at college, we've kind of all grown up a lot since school, and like I said, that transition period between leaving school and actually coming to college, you do learn a lot more about yourself because you're not doing anything. And I don't think, because you're hanging out with a lot of people, you don't let them influence you as much, because you're like, no, I'm my own person now, I'm not at school anymore, I can do what I like, you know what I mean?
Yourself, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing to happen, but there are so many people that just get lost and they end up falling into the wrong crowd. And the weird thing is, it can happen through music, because a lot of, there's a girl that I know that before she started hanging out with a certain group of people, she wouldn't listen to any sort of psytrance music and stuff. Then she went to a party and did a lot of drugs, but because they were listening to psytrance whilst they were doing the drugs, she now thinks it's cool to listen to psytrance all the time. So you know, and because she started listening to psytrance and stuff, she's now hanging out with all the people that are doing drugs every other weekend, you know, and it's bad, but it happens. But then again, you can't blame the music, it's the people that are hanging out with it, you know what I mean?
Well, so what do you think causes which then? Kind of you know, do you think it's kind of what came first, chicken and the egg, or do you think it's kind of with the music and the culture around it? Do you think the culture around it causes the music, and it's kind of, you know, they come together and people subscribe to the culture, which includes the music, or do you think the music creates the culture which people subscribe to?
I think you have to have some form of culture to start making the music, because if someone's just on their own, sat in their room, not having these life experiences, they're not going to be able to write about anything. Well, you can, but it's not going to have very significant meaning to anyone. However, if you've got a sort of a group of like 15 friends that are just meeting up all the time, and then they start making music, they're gonna all be experiencing the same stuff and have the same ideas, not necessarily completely the same, but they're gonna have the same sort of flow in what they want to do with it. However,
so it can come like kind of like a cult,
yeah,
and
then sort of develop into like
a sort of culture.
Yeah, but I do think it kind of works both ways, because there is some music that people like, reggae and Rastafarians. Do you know what I mean? It's like that, but then you've got all the like skatery people that listen to hip hop, etc. But I think that with their particular culture, like the skating culture, they need that kind of laid back thing with a hardcore beat, because they're skating all the time, so they need to be in rhythm with the skateboard as well as what they're listening to, if that makes sense. So I do think it is a bit of both, because without a culture you can't really have music that's relevant to everyone, but without relevant music you don't have a culture.
I'm just going to move the camera a bit so you
Am I left out of the way?
Oh shit, no, that's better, you were just a little bit off.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this has been a very good interview actually, Lara. You know, got anything else to say on the subject? Because you seem to be quite well, I'd just be interested to hear if you've got any other thoughts on it.
I don't know, I think from when you grow up, like when you're in school and even when you're in primary school, there was, especially for me, there was so much stigma attached to the music that you listen to. So like I said before, like when I was at school, everyone used to go on about Eminem, and I had no idea. Like when I was at school, I was listening to like, I don't know, My Little Pony theme tunes or something. Like, do you know what I mean? And Leo, and please cut that out. That was horrible.
Could you say a bit about the My Little Pony thing again?
Yeah. Like everyone was listening to Eminem, and then I'd be like listening to something completely different, like My Little Pony or whatever it was. But like, as you grew up, like it kind of became really important for you to know popular artists, because if you didn't know who the popular artists were, it was like, you don't know anything, get out, you know what I mean? But as you get to college, like I said previously, if you know someone that's kind of not very well known, and if you listen to them, then you're suddenly like, oh, listen to this band, they're really good. And people are like, yeah, they're actually really good. And then suddenly people start liking you more because you listen to good, unpopular music, you know? Yeah. And it's like, it shouldn't be about gaining your own status with the music. It should be about the music gaining your status, if that makes sense. Like, you shouldn't have to listen to like unique music to make your popularity as an individual higher. It should be about the music. It should never be about like, I hate the fact that people, when I used to hang out with the skaters and stuff, people used to stereotype me and think that I listened to like hip hop and stuff, and it's the same with like, you know, when I dress all hippie and I hang out with the hippies, people always think that I just listen to reggae and psytrance music all the time. I don't. If I'm going up hanging out with the hippies, I'll walk there and listen to Parkway Drive, like, you know what I mean, which is completely different. And even then, it's like with the clothes you wear as well. If you wear certain clothes, you're suddenly a certain type of person.
Yeah. So you think they go together then? You think they go together? So you kind of you're kind of a chameleon in a way. So if you're hanging out with a certain group of people, you dress that way, listen to that kind of music.
Yeah, but it's not even. But that. It's not even the. I'm still me. It's just the clothes and the music you listen to shouldn't define you. It should be you as a person, but you listen to music.
So I'm gonna ask quite a deep, question now.
Yeah, go for it.
So, okay, so you're not, if you weren't hanging out with anyone, well, it's kind of not really deep. It's kind of.
What if I was just in my room?
If you're just on your own, who are you?
Who am I?
What do you?
What would I listen to?
Yeah, and what? How would you dress if there was no influences from anyone else?
I'd be in trackies at home in my bed.
Yeah.
But I think that's what everyone does though. But it's not. I mean, when I get ready in the morning, I don't wake up and think, right, today I'm going to be a hippie, I'm going to make a playlist on my phone, listen to reggae all day. I'll just get up where I want and leave. But if I'm at home and I'm like doing my nails or something, I'll go on my laptop and I'll play like Lana Del Rey, and then I'll put on some Fleetwood Mac, and then I'll put on some like Snoop Dogg remixes, and then I'll listen to Usher, and then I'll have a sing along and practice my opera. You know what I mean? it's not. A lot of people think that when I go outside, they think that the reason why I, not necessarily but change my look, but wear so many different types of clothes, like when I dress like a hippie and when I dress like this, like they think I do it because I do hang out with a lot of, like, specifically, like, if I dress like a hippie, I'll be going out and seeing all the hippies that day, but it's not like that. I'll still hang out with, like, Brad and Ashley and Scott and everyone and see everyone here. I don't wake up with a specific idea in mind of what I'm going to be that day. It's just, it shouldn't matter what you wear and what music you listen to. It's just clothes and what you listen to. If people like it, then they should go ahead and listen to it. It's not going to kill anyone else. It's not going to damage anyone. But I do think that, like, a lot of cultures have come about because of certain types of music, and a lot of music has come about by certain cultures. You can't really have one without the other. Neither of them would have been able to start without the other one. I think it just kind of happens and evolves, and it can be incredible, and it just depends what you like though, doesn't it? Everyone's different, everyone has different opinions on things. But if you're hanging out with a certain group of people and then they come up with, like, some amazing music, you're obviously going to like it, because not only are you hanging out with them, but like I said before, you're sharing the same experiences as them. So, yeah.
Wicked. Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Lara.
You're welcome.
That was very interesting.
I could talk for hours.